Good evening and welcome. Hello, Julian.
Hello, Mike.
Wow, well, we're into series 4 of Veterinary Ramblings.
Series 4? Series 4? How did that happen? A minute ago it was March and we were in lockdown.
Yeah, and now it's November and we're in lockdown.
Oh, we are, yes.
Hi, I'm Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Ho.
Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings. Well, what a night we've got tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've got a fabulous guest tonight, a chap I've spent many hours with, normally on a bicycle, riding around Scotland and Northern Ireland, doing CPD off a bicycle like a couple of onion sellers.
And one of my surgical heroes.
Oh, right, okay. Well, tell everybody who we're talking to.
We are talking to none other than Alasdair Hotston Moore tonight, who is fantastic.
Tell us a little bit about him.
Shall I give you his bio?
Yeah, please do. Because I think he's nearly here.
He's almost here. He's drawing up outside. I can hear his wheels crunching on the gravel.
Go on.
So he qualified from Cambridge in 1990, so in the last millennium. And he's focused pretty much on small animal surgery since then. So he did an internship and a residency at Bristol Vet School, spent a little time doing research in Aberdeen. In 1997, so a year after I qualified, just to get some sort of perspective, he returned to Bristol and he was subsequently lecturer and senior lecturer in small animal surgery. He's got postgraduate qualifications in loads of things, so in radiology, small animal cardiology, small animal surgery, and medical education.
Wow.
He was also the programme director of the veterinary nursing degree and led through years 3 to 5 of the BVet science programme.
Was
He moved into private referral practice early 2009, that's still early for me. Was clinical director and member of the clinical advisory board. And after that, he received a fellowship. Shortly after that, 2017, received a fellowship for contributions to clinical practice and as an advanced practitioner in small animal surgery.
Okay.
He has more publications in peer-reviewed journals and books than you can shake a stick at.
Gosh.
He's spoken in just about every country in Europe and the world, and very recently left good old Blighty to go to China.
Our man in Shanghai.
Our man in Shanghai.
Wow.
But I believe he's back now, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And I'll tell you what's more, Julian. Not only is he back, he's in the waiting room.
Let's get him in. Let's get
in and introduce everybody to Alasdair Hotston Moore. Alasdair.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Alasdair, you've got far more hair than any of us.
I've got it here as well. Look.
Yeah, what's going on down there?
Yeah.
It's my unemployment beard. I can't afford to, frizzle money away on shaving and stuff. So I think Mike's the same by the looks of it. Yeah.
So seriously, viewers, if you can afford to send a bic a week to Alasdair, please go to www.sendalasdairabicaweek.co.uk.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
You're very, very welcome.
Other razors are available. We don't want to waste money on those.
Probably better ones.
Bics are fine.
Yeah. It's troubling me actually because he wears it a little bit better than I do, I think. And
it's all right, isn't it? I did it.
It's a nice one.
It's all right, isn't it? And this is 3 weeks. 3 weeks now, I think. Yeah, 3 weeks.
See, when I was at college, I grew a beard, and after about 6 months, it grew into really quite a luxuriant cat weasel, straggly one. And my wife has informed me that if ever I grow another beard again, she's leaving.
Yeah. So that's a good sign. I've had a lockdown haircut to try and keep me going for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah. Have you? Fair enough. So you've sort of left one lockdown to another.
I was, that lockdown in China was a long time ago, and
Right.
life has been almost normal for months.
So you've come back now, have you, Alasdair, to the new lockdown and really to try and crack this virus once and for all, and so just don't go out ever again unless you want to drive to Barnard Castle or somewhere like that. Thank you, and then we'll get through it all until we die of coronavirus next week. Thank you.
I have to say I'm scared because for the listeners to the show, that was almost pitch perfect and visual perfect mimic of our erstwhile Führer,
Obergruppen Führer Boris.
Boris Johnson. Yay!
Yay! Fantastic! Don't we love him?
Don't we love him? We love him as much as no. We were not going to go there, are we?
I'm not going to mention Dominic Cummings.
No.
Our de facto Prime Minister.
Yeah. Or what's going on over the other side of the Atlantic either. No.
So you're back. You're back from China.
Yeah.
Did you have a good time?
We had a ball.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time.
Yeah, but we'll talk about the food later.
Yeah.
Did you?
We did. We had a lot of fun. China is a strange place, as you might expect, and a land of contrasts in every way. But in this context, that means that yes, we had times when we had fun and certainly an awful lot of interest and saw things that we'd never otherwise see, in a good way. And also, life in China can be extremely frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a sort of general view that living there as a international expat, that if you can enjoy 6 days a week, then you're okay. And if you get to only enjoying 5 days a week, it's probably time to think again, because the days when you have difficult days can be very difficult.
And is that bureaucracy?
Bureaucracy is an important part of it. So I guess it would be the same if any of us went to make a life in another country. Mm-hmm. But not only, of course, is there language barriers more than there would be in other European countries, for example, but also the Chinese, they like systems, and I think they've introduced more systems in recent years because they feel they ought to. But some of those things lead to a lot of frustration sometimes. So, as an example, to open my bank account, well, firstly, you can only have a bank account if you have a work permit. My wife couldn't have a bank account, and you can't have joint bank accounts. So I had to have a bank account, and then we could share my bank cards through payment apps and things. But so first of all, you need to have a work permit. Then you need to go to the bank with your passport, your work permit, your work contract, and a statement of your salary. And this took 3 visits to get this sorted out. And the last visit, which was successful, was 3 hours. And you think, these things just take time, and it takes a while. And you just have to learn to accept that some of these things in China just seem to take time that you don't understand.
And are they spread through by greasing the palms a little bit sometimes?
No, that's not obvious. I think that can happen, but that's not that. I never saw that myself.
And did you learn the language at all?
Very little. And maybe I would be flattering myself to say 20 words, probably. Less than that. Oh no, not very much at all. No.
But if you learn 20 words, then you probably know about 2,000, because some of them are the same words, but you just pronounce them slightly different. So, and so.
So there's the four. I know there's 4 tones in pronunciation. Yes. But that's all. I know there are 4 tones, but I don't. That doesn't help me in the slightest.
The one I like best, because I spent a little bit of time studying this, and the one I like best is and I'll probably get it wrong, and I apologize in advance to any of our Chinese listeners here for my intonation, but it's the word ma, M-A.
Yeah.
And with the intonation of ma, that means mother-in-law. But ma means horse. And I think it's great. And I can just picture a whole host of occasions there where I could blunder in and get it all wrong.
Yeah. Although they, something I discovered, and one reason that I accepted a job in China was actually Chinese people do have a sense of humor and a sense of fun.
Right.
And because I speak almost no Chinese, it wasn't a big problem actually, because you can talk to people without sharing words, and you can laughing, smiling, and pointing. If when you're pointing, you're laughing and smiling, not shouting and gesticulating, then it works.
So you're not a true British expat then?
No, I don't.
Said you're not a true British expat. Oh,
I know. Hope so. I'm sure I was on occasions, because sometimes that bureaucracy thing just gets too much.
That's another one. That's another one I've just remembered.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chinese for cat. China. You know this one surely, Alasdair.
Mao.
Yeah. Mao is the Chinese for cat. I like that. Sorry.
and thank you is it shay shay or something? Shay shay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I'm told, Paula tells me I've always pronounced it wrong, so I'm not going to pronounce it now, because apparently the trouble is, once you start pronouncing something wrong, it's very hard to.
It is. There's hippocampal learning going on there, isn't there? Yeah. There's some. I always used to ask. Well, I often ask a question as a sort of icebreaker for quizzes and things. What's the longest sentence in the English language comprising of just one word? And do you know this one?
Go on.
So the longest sentence in the English language comprising of just one word is buffalo, 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 buffalo. And that's a completely grammatically correct sentence, because buffalo here has three meanings. There's buffalo, which is the bovid, the animal, and there's buffalo, which is the place in America, and there's a verb, to buffalo, which is an American verb, and it means to annoy or be grouchy at. So buffalo, in other words, the buffalo from buffalo, or get grouchy at. The buffalo, so the ones from buffalo, that the buffalo, also buffalo. You see, so that's now buffalo. So that's 13. However, the longest sentence in the Chinese language, comprising of just one word, is a 94-word poem called "The Lion Eats," and it only has one word, which is "she." But "she" can have 30-odd meanings, and so they trounce us completely on that one.
Yeah, it's I mean, this is my excuse for why I didn't try very hard to learn it, because I decided early on, before I went, that I would never learn enough to be useful at work. I'd never consult in Chinese, and actually it would be dangerous to do so, because unless you have a very secure grasp of language, that leads to all sorts of difficulties.
Yeah.
So I never really, I never started, and then every so often I think, I should get some lessons arranged, but I never did. But Paula did a lot. Paula, has a reasonable grasp, but she gets frustrated, and this is because, as in any conversation between people of different languages and different appearances, of course, if you don't manage to speak clearly in the language you're trying to use, and you don't look like you should be using that language, people just assume you're speaking your own language and they don't understand you.
Yes, that's true. It can be as frustrating the other way around. So Sylvia and I are learning Greek, and we can both speak Greek now, reasonably. We can get by. But Sylvia, being Armenian, looks Greek, and so if I speak Greek, then they'll be overjoyed that here is someone who's clearly English speaking Greek, and they will speak very slowly and half in English because the certain idiomatic
I
expressions.
didn't know Greek people could speak slowly.
they have to twist their arms until it hurts. But if Sylvia says something in Greek, then they'll look at her and think, oh, she's clearly Greek, and they'll rattle off 1,000 revs per minute and give the answer to a question. We're standing going,
yeah. And the trouble with these answers is that, and we've been there, so you can develop a question in another language, and I couldn't do it in Chinese, but I could spend 10 minutes thinking of a question in French, and then of course you deliver your question, and the answer comes back. So you just go down there. Now my auntie used to live on the left there, but don't go there. Around the corner, see the house with the red door. You don't want that one. Just keep going along a bit. And you look, I know you're looking for a baker's, but before you get to the baker's, there's an excellent butcher's just there.
Yeah, their sausage is fantastic.
On you go. So you're doomed, aren't you? You're doomed.
Yeah, you are. You are.
So I didn't have that problem in China because I could tell the taxi driver to turn right, because sometimes that's useful. Not least because onto the compound where we lived, you would go in. And you get to, it's the only roundabouts I've seen in China. They don't really do roundabouts, but for some reason on our compound, there was a series of roundabouts. So you get to the first roundabout, turn right. Okay, so I got the word for right. And then you get to the next roundabout and it's straight across. So, oh yeah, straight across. And then stop, or here, usually here. And you can stop, and that's it. But I never learned the word for left because I didn't need to turn left.
They never reversed into the compound at all.
No. And of course, actually, with modern technology, you can, actually, although I can tell the taxi driver where to go, he's already got it on his phone because I called it the DD on the DD app, and there's a DD version of the app in English. So that's great, and off you go. And the usual social media for messaging friends and so on is WeChat or Weishi, and again there's an auto translate within it. So I have some Chinese contacts that speak no more English than I speak Chinese, but we can talk about things. They can ask me for case advice and I can give them case advice using in-app translation. It just, I think, requires both parties just to think carefully about the way that they write.
Incredible, isn't it? We're approaching the stage where we can almost get Douglas Adams's Babel fish to
absolutely. Yeah.
What are clients like in China? Are they the same sort of clients we get over here? Are they more demanding, less demanding?
I guess same as here. There are some that are very demanding and some that are more like we would think we would be if we were clients. So my particular client base, I have about a third of Western clients, and then about a third of English-speaking Chinese clients, and maybe a third of non-English-speaking Chinese clients. And they're generally not entirely, but they're in the middle to upper economic bracket, of course. We weren't a particularly expensive establishment, actually, but certainly the sort of walking price was certainly not expensive.
Right.
And so most of the Western clients, of course, are similar to UK or North American clients in terms of their general attitudes and so on. Right. Some of them aren't. So perhaps some people, Westerners that have only started keeping pets since they lived in Shanghai, then some of them behave in a more Chinese style. And that has some interesting effects.
Do you want to care to elaborate on Chinese style for us, Alasdair?
So one of the interesting things about the client-vet relationship in China is there is much less trust going on than we just accept is the case in the UK. So we all have clients who don't trust us, of course we do, and we all have clients in the UK that we fall out with. But the reality is that 90% of clients, maybe more, do like us, they do trust us, and they follow our instructions without, they may ask questions to understand them better, but generally they follow our instructions because they believe we're giving them the correct answer for the best care of them and their pet.
Yep.
Chinese, the trust between vets and clients in China is much less. And that's partly, some of that relates to the vet relationship. And I think some of it relates to general levels of trust between clients and businesses in China. There is less trust. Trust is not a given. So, as a non-veterinary example, if I go to a shop here, or I go and eat out in a restaurant in the UK, and the bill comes, I suspect, like most people, I glance at the bill, and if it looks, that looks right.
Right. Yeah.
It's right. Then you're good to go, really, aren't you? And off you get. And whereas in China, everyone would rake through the bill item by item, that would be much more normal.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
And there's nothing wrong with that. It just, I think, illustrates a different level of trust between clients.
I almost perceive it would be the other way around.
No. So we went out with one of my nurses, a young lady called Mia, who we she was very useful and very pleasant to us, Paula and I. And we went to a local Chinese, of course, restaurant with her one night.
Yeah.
And we're talking, you can get in a restaurant like that, which was just around the corner from where we live, you could get a good meal for £5 to £7 a head, including a couple of beers.
Right.
And at the end of the evening, she went through the bill and she discovered that they had charged us for some boxes of serviettes that we hadn't opened. And she insisted that they take them off the bill. And we're talking, 20 pence. Yeah. And that's so it's not a criticism. I'm be very careful about the way I say things. I observe it as a difference.
Yeah.
And the veterinary industry is reflects that as well, in a general sense as well as in a particular sense. So the other thing is that vets in the UK, of course, they're generally trusted. We are generally well educated. We behave professionally. And even if we chose not to behave professionally, we could easily get caught out for behaving non-professionally. There would be sanction against us. And so, generally, we behave as a profession. Vets in China, I would say, don't see themselves as a profession generally. What I'd say one of the defining aspects of a profession is self-regulation, or at least how much of it now is self-regulation, but regulation within the profession in some way. That doesn't really happen in China.
So there's no equivalent of the RCDS out there?
No. You have to have a local license, but that's, I think, not particularly measured on your professionalism. It's more, if you broke the laws for stocking pharmaceuticals or something, you might have some sanction against you. But as an example of that, this would be something that would never happen in the UK. So a client comes in with Doo-Doo to come and see me. Doo-Doo is there on the table in front of me, not looking very well. I've examined Doo-Doo.
Doo-Doo.
Doo-Doo, that's one of the commonest names of dogs in China.
Right. Yeah. So this is like Tricky Woo, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the same time, one of the more common presenting signs.
This is what I was thinking. I was Doo-Doo comes in and I'm picturing this big steaming pile
of Doo-Doo.
Right.
Can I get back to my story?
Sorry, Alasdair. Yeah, sorry. So Doo-Doo Do.
So
There's doo-doo on the table, yeah.
I've examined doo-doo. I've maybe reviewed some results that have come with doo-doo. Now, the results won't have been provided by the other vet if it's seen another vet already, because they don't really do that. But all the clients have copies of all the results directly. That's just expected to be like that.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, actually. I quite like that. So I've looked at the dog. I've looked at the blood tests. They maybe have a screenshot of the X-ray. So I'm looking at the screenshot of the X-ray. And then the client's on the phone, and they're on the phone to another vet. Not the vet they've seen already, but a third vet who's never seen doo-doo or anything else. And the other vet will be telling the owner what they think should be done, and saying that whatever I've suggested might be the wrong thing to do. Probably not. White is the wrong word. That would be too kind. You know, I've actually had another vet who's never met the dog or the owner telling the owner that I'm a fraud because I've not done this particular test, or I've suggested you do that particular test. That, as far as I know, that doesn't happen in the UK. I don't recall that happening in a UK consultation.
Wow. Could you imagine that in your consult room?
No, although I did have an interesting occasion once. I was consulting, and there was this guy saying yeah, and suddenly his phone went off. I was giving him a diagnosis.
Yeah.
I was giving him a diagnosis, a really quite serious one. His dog had.
You're watching this live.
His dog had an hemangiosarcoma, and so I was telling him this really bad news.
Hang on a minute, Julian, shh, I've got something on the phone.
Yeah, did you take your conversation over there? Come on,
No.
Oh, you're there, aren't you? So
Get over that. That is so rude.
It is. Yeah. He said, oh yeah, I'm at the vets, yeah. No, he's going on about something or other. No. So what is it? Yeah, you're right, yeah. Friday. Yeah, Friday, yeah. You're right, yeah. Yeah, I probably will, yeah. Yeah. Charge much too much. Yeah. What the absolute?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah.
So there we go. I charged him double. But but no, you're right. It happens very rarely, and most people are respectful of us. We're very, very lucky. We're a privileged profession in that we are a profession, and people in general have a great deal of trust in what we say, and which is good because that trust then is repaid. We do the job we do because, in general, we love the job we do, and we love the patients, and there's this certain bit of love that goes to the clients as well, because actually to have a dog or a cat and pay it that much attention and bring it to the vet needs love and commitment, and so we in turn respect the clients for doing that, don't we?
Yeah, that's brilliant, Alistair. So what's next for you? Any plans at all?
So I'm likely to return to a referral practice in the UK after Christmas.
Okay. Any ideas which one yet, or not at liberty to say?
I'm just finalising some. I've talked to a couple of people, and people seem to be surprisingly keen to get me in their team. So
why are you surprised?
We all suffer occasionally from imposter syndrome, I think.
Let's examine that. You're far from an imposter. And as I said earlier in our intro, you spoke about heroes of the veterinary profession.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, to me, a lowly jobbing veterinary surgeon who has an interest in soft tissue surgery, whenever I do surgery, I think, what would Alasdair be doing this? Would he? Would I be doing it nearly as well as he is? Clearly, the answer is not. But I look to you as one of the. I don't want to get too close here with you on this, but I look to you as one of the leaders of the profession in this. In that, actually, when you started to grind your teeth on the soft tissue field, a lot of the procedures that are being considered standard now weren't being considered at all back then, were they?
I think you're right. I entered at a time when it was moving beyond a few universities and there was only 1 or 2 referral centres, wasn't there, back then, that had any real specialism with a small s going on. So yeah, I was in it at that time, and since then, yes, there's been many procedures that have become standard that were certainly not then. When interestingly, if I look back at one of my heroes, for example, Professor Harold Pearson, rest in peace, probably, and it's so. I was lucky enough to look back through some of his case records. I was left his letters to look at when he retired, so that I could fall back and do some retrospective studies, for example. And it was not that long before I was there that people were really reluctant to do bitch bays in practice.
Is that right?
Oh, really? Yeah, absolutely. So I was. If you only go back to I started at Bristol in 1990, you would only go back to the 10, 15 years before that.
Yeah.
And there were lots of practitioners that would not want to do that and would send them in to get done.
Gosh.
Yeah. And obviously, so it's just one example. But yeah, and again, there's been another flourishing in my time for sure.
I remember when I first saw practice or did clinical work experience rather, when I was 10 or 11, and I worked for really quite an advanced vet in those days who had one of the first veterinary hospitals in Sutton. A guy called Alan Phillips, really nice guy, and he would get scrubbed up in his short sleeved gown, get scrubbed up, and if he was doing an orthopedic op, that was the first thing on the table, as it should be now, of course, because that was the most sterile. He'd do the orthopedic op, get the drill, sew it all up, hands up again, and the nurses would whisk the dog away and then bring him the bitch spay. And he'd dive in there and do that. And he reckoned that actually you could do an orthopedic, a bitch spay, a dog castrate, and then the cats, because that would be a line of sterility, and you'd be absolutely fine in doing that. Yes. Of course, he put a good vial of powdered Pembriton into each wound at the time.
You just can't get it anymore. It's just,
I know. But actually, Leslie Vaughan was still using that at the RVC when I was studying. Pembriton is crystallized, so dried penicillin, isn't it?
Ampicillin, yeah. Ampicillin, yeah.
And you'd sprinkle it in with the hopes that presumably the high acid content of it would kill any bacteria.
One of my when I was a resident, one of my mentors was using it. Yeah. Yeah. When you finish the total ear canal ablation and vent and lateral bular osteotomy, then you'd sprinkle in some.
That's right. The magic dust.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've never done that, but yeah.
Yeah, you shudder it now. I know when I first qualified, there was this idea that if you were doing a rabbit abscess and clearing that out, you'd suture an anti-rope capsule in
place.
And
do you know where that came from?
No.
So that whole thing came from when Anti-Robe were looking for promotion. Yeah, advertisement material and stuff. So this must be in, I don't know, 92, I don't know, maybe before, a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And somebody wrote a case report of a rabbit abscess, and this is what they did. And then it's just become, this is what you should do on the basis of a case report written, no peer review, nothing else, written for the purposes of Upjohn, as it was then.
Yes.
To promote Anti-Robe in small animals.
This is the N=1 caseload.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow. And it's persisted in every sense. Probably that capsule's still there.
Yes. I've got to say, it'd be classed as an urban myth, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I've got one with the cat Doppler from Thames Medical, and there's a lot of them out there. They've been around for 22 years, and a lot of people will phone us up and say, that they take the battery out after every use. Well, that's never appeared in any documentation that I've produced as the manufacturer or anything. And it turned out that when the Novartis reps were carrying cat Dopplers around to promote Forticor to control blood pressure, they were carrying the units around in the boots of their cars. So over winter, the unit would be in the boot of their car overnight. And of course, a cold battery would never work the next morning.
Mm.
So I told a couple of the Novartis reps that if you carry it around the boot of your car, take the battery out. And that got translated to every practice that uses a cat Doppler to having to take the battery out every time they use it. Where, of course, in practice, it's staying in a nice warm environment. There's no real temperature gradient or anything like that. And there's no real need to, unless you want to recharge it, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, most incredible stuff. So that's where the rabbit abscess thing came from,
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody must still have one of those leaflets somewhere. It'd be good to find it.
It'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Love urban myths like that.
Things have progressed, haven't they now? And I guess most practices are following or trying to follow evidence-based medicine, evidence-based surgery.
Yeah. I want to come back to China, Alasdair, because China is, well, we all talk or we hear about Chinese medicine and the Chinese way. Is there much crossover in veterinary medicine with regards to Chinese medicine?
So there is a school of a school in with a small s of traditional Chinese veterinary medicine.
Right.
I didn't have much to do with it because, of course, clients that would come to see me were not looking for that approach anyway. But certainly some of
that's partly because you're 6'4" and from the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they came to me because they want a Western-facing clinic.
Carry on.
Yeah. But some of my patients will have been on traditional Chinese veterinary medicine. In fact, most vets don't have any teaching on traditional Chinese veterinary medicine, and many of certainly the foremost veterinary colleges don't seem to have any active teachers in traditional Chinese veterinary medicine. So vets that have learnt it from themselves through bookwork rather than through teaching at university.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'll ask, as I'm no longer in China, I'll ask this question: what do we know about traditional Chinese medicine? The answer is we don't know very much. And how old do we think it is? When did it see a great resurgence? Any thoughts on that?
Ming?
No.
It was within the last 80 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Mao Zedong realized that China didn't have enough doctors and could never have enough doctors at the time of the revolution. So he set about to saying, well, what we need is to find a way to provide medicine to the masses of China. And there is an awful lot of people in China.
For sure.
And so they collected anecdotes, old writings, and they produced a textbook for what were called barefoot doctors going into the villages of China. And that has now transmogrified into what is called traditional Chinese medicine. But most of that will have no credibility. Even then it wouldn't have had much credibility. It's just a set of recipes.
A lot of the anecdotal basis was fairly strong as anecdotes go. And so, it was anecdotes from thousands or tens of thousands of people, but with no real, well, absolutely no scientific structure in place to ratify them, and so I guess I'm well aware that someone's recently been sued, haven't they, for slacking off traditional Chinese medicine.
And
so we don't
I
want to
don't think we've done. I don't think we've done that.
But
I don't think we've
I
done
don't
that.
know, I know,
Yeah.
but what we need to make sure is that actually we're dissing the fact that it's not thousands of years old as it's presented here and now. This is a modern representation of ideas, some of which may be thousands of years old, some of which may be maybe 50 or so years old. But it's this sort of coalescence of ideas, some of which have seemed to help over the years, that was put together to try and fight a problem that they needed fighting, which was, as you say, they didn't have enough doctors, they didn't have enough medicine capabilities to serve their nation, and they needed to, because they didn't have the drugs or the ability to get them in. So they had to try and find other ways that people on the ground could treat them.
Well, some of this has got to be based in science that was unknown at the time. I mean, if we look at willow bark and salicylic acid.
Well, but there's a step between observing that it seems to work and then proving it works through science, and also
absolutely,
it's not
because otherwise what you get is a teleological explanation for the results you see. You eat a certain herb, you feel better. Is that placebo? Is it medicine? I think it's medicine in this case because it happens more often than it doesn't happen. And then, if you like, Western medicine comes in and says, well, okay, actually, let's look at that. Yeah, actually, there is a null hypothesis that says it doesn't work. We've refuted that. It does work. Let's isolate the chemicals that sees that. Whereas a lot of traditional Chinese medicine is explained in ways that aren't following Western scientific protocols.
And it's not been tested in those Western.
And it's not been,
And I, you could say that's a cultural difference, but I think it's a little more to it than that. And I'll say, the one of the difference I noticed in vets in China is that they don't really understand the idea of evidence-based medicine, and they're not very discriminatory at the treatments they use. So, if a dog has heart disease, well, if a dog has any disease, there will always be a diagnosis. Their uncertainty is not something that Chinese vets or Chinese clients are comfortable with. They like to have a name. And once you have a diagnosis, of course, then you have to have a treatment. And if you look at heart disease, there's maybe 5 classes of drugs we might use for treating heart disease, I guess. I'm a surgeon, but that would be my guess.
You have a certificate in cardiology, so I think you can brag about it.
So the answer, of course, is every dog with heart disease has 5 drugs. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Fair enough.
Why would not every dog have pinabendan and sulfidipine and an ACE inhibitor, some furosemide, and maybe some digoxin? Why would you not? Because it's got heart disease, so we should treat all aspects in every case.
Throw it all. Yeah.
And even more so. There's difficulty with access to medications in China. Chinese veterinary hospitals are only allowed to stock licensed veterinary products, and there's not all that many of them, and a selection of human generic type products. It would be against the law to stock unlicensed veterinary products.
Interesting.
What that means is that, getting back to this dog with heart disease, so you might want to give it so many milligrams of sildenafil, but you don't have access to that in a useful form. All you have is the blue tablets that's for older men, and that the dog needs much less than a whole blue tablet, so you break a bit off. So and then it needs some pimavandan as well, and again, because it's a tiny little dog, then you don't need to give it a whole pimavandan tablet, and you don't have the range of tablets available. and it's probably not licensed in China anyway. So what you have has appeared in somebody's suitcase carried in from another country. And so you need 1/10 of that tablet, okay? And then some furosemide, and you can't get the furosemide pediatric suspension. Your dog only weighs 2 kilos, so you need 1/8 of a human tablet of furosemide as well. Well, the obvious thing, of course, is you have your technician to dice up all these medications, put them in a blue and white capsule, and tell you only you take a blue and white capsule twice a day. And then when they come to see Mr. Hotston Moore, and Mr. Hotston Moore says, "Oh, so what is your pet receiving now? Because you've fallen out with your last vet, so you want to come and see me." And as you know, I'm well known for my cardiology skills. So, what are you giving your dog now? I'm giving a blue and white capsule. Yes. And what's in that? We don't know. Oh, right.
No idea.
No idea.
Wow.
And it's quite hard to find. It can be quite hard to find out what is in it, because the other vet may not have wanted to tell them, because he or she wants to supply the drugs themselves.
Yes.
Or they're not good. Lots of practices don't keep very good records. A lot of them are using written records, if anything at all, and then it doesn't. So if you phone and speak to the receptionist, you're never going to get an answer from the receptionist. She can't call it up on the computer and tell you what's been given. Might be written down on a piece of paper, and if you're lucky, at some point you'll get a scan of the piece of paper.
Wow,
that's quite a different world.
Yeah. So what's owner concordance like?
Not very good. So if you give the tablets for 3 days and they work, you may as well stop now.
And you got some in the cupboard.
If you give the tablet for 3 days and it hasn't worked, you probably may as well stop now, won't you? and yeah, this has happened all the time, and or much more so in that I've never worked, as you know, in first opinion practice in the UK, so I don't have quite the reliable barometer. But I don't get the impression that so often in the UK people would just change doses and frequencies by themselves without interacting with the.
It happens. It happens more often than they like to think. I've got a lot of clients I think are brilliant, and they always do things the way I want them to, and take everything I say as gospel. I know. And I said to one of them a few months back over the phone when we weren't allowed to see people. I said a dog had been bitten, and I said, "Look, I think we got to see. I think he needs some antibiotics." He said, "Oh, I've got some of the pink ones left." What's that you say? Yes. Hold on, I'll get them. Sinulex. Sinulox? Yes. I gave you a course of Sinulox 2 years ago for your dog. That's right. Yeah, still got some left. No, there's a course. You give the whole of the course. You should
No. I give him a couple over the weekend.
That's right. Yeah. See, better after 3 days. So exactly the same. Yeah.
But I think it happens more. And we had a little, because as you know, I'm also well known for my skills in neurology. So people flock to me with their neurology cases.
We covered that already.
Yeah. And this kitten that was having seizures, and we managed to get hold of some liquid phenobarbital. Not an easy thing to do, but we got hold of some of that, and then we were resupplying it and so on. And after a while, I hadn't heard for ages, and then they came back to us and said, "Oh, yeah, we need some more now." You should have needed some more about 3 months ago. So what have you been doing? Well, I know you said to give it 1 meal 3 times a day, and we did that, and then it seemed to be going all right. So we dropped it down to 1 meal twice a day. It seemed to go all right. So, and when we're giving it half a meal once a day for the last, this is why we haven't needed any more. And but you may as well have stopped then. You know that, because that's not going to be doing anything.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I've got veterinary practices that change their disposables on a similar sort of basis.
Yeah. Not really this. Well, vets don't like to dispose of anything, do they? That's why.
No, even though we can make a single patient human disposable last a month, some practices still manage to try and make them last 6 months.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so Alasdair.
Yes.
We have a challenge on the show called the
Yep.
60-second CPD challenge. How do you feel?
I'm up for this.
You're up for this.
I'm not going to rush my words, but I have a philosophy to share with you.
You have a philosophy. Is this a Chinese philosophy or an English philosophy?
No, this is Alasdair's philosophy of teaching.
Alasdair's philosophy. Okay. Well, in that case, then, Alasdair, please share with us in 60 seconds Alasdair's philosophy of teaching, starting now.
So I'm particularly thinking of surgery cases. When we learn to do things, I strongly believe we should learn to do simple things well. We should choose methods for surgical treatments that are relatively straightforward with fewer steps, and then focusing on doing them well, rather than looking for methods that's become increasingly complicated. And because something is more complicated, we are more likely not to complete the steps accurately, and we're more likely, therefore, to end with a less satisfactory result. So you might have two techniques, one of which has a 90% outcome if done well, and one of which has a 95% outcome if done well. But if you can not deliver it to the satisfactory conclusion, you will not do well.
That's close enough. That's fantastic.
Pretty good.
That's fabulous.
That's brilliant.
Well,
That's 60-second CPD.
60-second CPD.
Excellent.
So what you're actually advocating now, Alasdair, is keep it simple.
Absolutely.
Stupid. But
keep it simple for a reason that I've tried to point out there. It's all very well to say, Professor Hare, Dr. Schmidt has shown that this is a superior technique because his success rate is 95%. So we should follow Professor Hare, Dr. Schmidt's technique. But of course, if we don't do that technique very often, the chances are we can't deliver it to that level of technical accuracy, and therefore it's not the right technique to use.
Yeah.
We had a chat. I can't remember who with one of our guests a while back on levels of competency, and this I guess fits in with that, doesn't it? There are 4 levels of competency. There's unconscious incompetence, where you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You then get a little bit better and you know what you don't know, but you still can't do it properly. So that's conscious incompetence. And then you get au fait with it. You're able to do it as long as you're concentrating. You're able to do it very well. That's conscious competence. And then you get to the stage where you can do it in the old-fashioned way with your eyes shut and one hand behind your back, and that's unconscious competence.
Yeah.
And so whatever you do, you get to the stage of at least conscious competence before progressing forwards. I guess that's what you're advocating, is it?
It is. And if we look at the particular discipline of surgery, we, as vets, even those of us that primarily do surgery, unless we spent some time in China and developed our skills in dermatology, cardiology, and neurology, and dentistry,
and pharmacology,
yes, right. Even those of us that have, developed a discipline of surgery, or in my case, particular soft tissue surgery, and particularly in dogs and cats, I'm actually a real generalist compared to the man that I would want to do my hip replacement. Sure. I'm a real generalist, and therefore we have to be careful to choose surgical therapies that can be delivered by people without the same experience and specialist training that we might expect in our medical colleagues. That's my point. Mm-hmm. And it's true for me as somebody who's discipline focused in soft tissue surgery. It's even more so for general practitioners who are doing surgery together with all those other things that they have to do. And so we, when we see some complex surgical techniques published, and then they're promoted as the best thing from best thing since sliced bread. That might be true in the hands of those that get to practice them and have all the right gear to do them and have reached conscious competence or unconscious competence.
Unconscious
But
competence.
for most people, we're never going to reach that level.
No.
And therefore, it's much better to learn a technique that can be delivered reliably, even if the final outcome, if you were to compare this technique in the hands of somebody who does it all the time compared to that technique in the hands of somebody who does it all the time, even if the technique I'm teaching you is less good outcomes, only has a 90% cure rate as opposed to 95%, that's okay. If the average lady on the Clapham omnibus can deliver it, then that's what we're looking for.
It is. So that's an excellent 60-second CPD subject, Alasdair. Right? I think that's deserving of a CPD certificate.
I think so too.
So if I could just read it out for people who haven't got access to video here. So I put, yippee, it's another Veterinary Ramblings. And this confirms that all of you have paid attention and learned absolutely masses of all sorts of stuff. Signed, me and him. But it really is a salutary lesson, this CPD certificate, because
what's this? Is that a tracheotomy tube?
We haven't done fungi at all. We haven't done fungi at all tonight.
We haven't.
Oh, well, that's
going to do tonight. No, it's not. It's not. You see, there we go. They look like mushrooms. So for people watching, I'm pointing at a picture on the CPD certificate of what looks like three mushrooms, but they're not. You know what they are?
Go on.
They're the remnants of potatoes that have gone through my spiralizer, and it wastes a little core and the end, and they look like mushrooms. And so this is why we must always be clear of what we're dealing with. Look and look again, and be absolutely certain of what you're dealing with.
What's a spiralizer?
You haven't got a spiralizer? Mike, where have you been?
Is this like a NutriBullet or something? Is it some...
Well,
I have no idea.
It shreds vegetables into a spiral, and therefore clearly makes them healthier.
Oh, so it is like a NutriBullet.
Yeah, pretty much.
So they come out crispier when you deep fry them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And I use goose fat. I know other forms of deep frying solutes are available, but a good deep fried potato in goose fat.
Okay, so all is not as it seems. Carry on then.
All is not as it seems. There we go. Look, this is, what's this? Little bee on some lavender.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that.
So I thought we might touch on alternative therapies tonight, and lavender clearly has other medical properties, and honey we're now using quite often, are we not, in place of antibiotics to treat infections. So there we go.
Wound healing.
And wound healing.
Oh. Yeah.
And that's a staff picture of me wearing a mask with a Chinese dragon on the front of it.
Oh, how lovely.
Very good.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, that's all very well as putting forward our certificate and our CPD, but of course, as Alasdair will, I'm sure, be aware, welcome back to the UK. Now back into the heart of the RCVS. There are certain requirements for CPD to be classified as CPD, and one of the key requirements there is that you have to reflect on the learning message that you have received during the CPD. So Alasdair, if I could formally invite you, please, just to join us on a moment's reflection on the CPD this evening. He has watched it, look, I can see that. He's definitely watched it.
He's seen it before, he's cheated.
Yeah, he's cheating, he's seen it before. He's just too natural on this one.
I must clean those blinds.
Yeah.
Hey, now, Alasdair, I normally round off the evening with a joke, which usually goes down very badly. But tonight I thought I'd try something a little bit differently.
Are you going to dance for us? No.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do your 60-second CPD in the medium of modern dance. No, I'm not. I'm going to give you a bit of a mathematical conundrum, because I know that maths is one of your subjects, actually. But so here's the thing. I'm going to give you a series of 4 numbers, and I want you to tell me the odd one out. Okay?
Yeah.
15, 17, 23, and 42. Any ideas?
Well, I was looking for a prime number, but there's 2 prime numbers hiding in there. So
It's good. Well spotted. Well spotted. Yeah. Do you want to pick one of those prime numbers, for example?
I'd go 17.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. Do you know why?
No.
Because the others come with fried rice. I thought you'd know that, living in China for 18 months.
Oh, spare us.
God.
Oh, dog, help us.
That's not. I'm going to say that's not how Chinese food works. Only only people that can't afford other things eat rice. You know that, don't you?
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Is that right? You know.
We had some German friends of ours staying with us a few years back, and we went to a Chinese restaurant, and they said, "Oh gosh, there's so much rice. What do we go for?" And so we ordered it ultimately, and we put the we gave the numbers to the waiter, and they said, "Why do you do the numbers?" I was in a really cheeky mood, and I said, "Well, in England, every Chinese menu has exactly the same numbers. So if you order a 33 anywhere, it's always pork and black bean sauce." Really? I said, "Yeah, is it not the same in Germany?" No, it's not. How does that work then? How do you know what you're ordering? They said, "Well, we just look at the menu." I said, "No, that's completely illogical." And yeah, I fancy prawns and bamboo shoots tonight. That's what is it, Sarah? She said 27. There we go. And so we got them believing it, and without us knowing, they went on to Oxford or something like that afterwards. They made a note of what we had that night. They went to this Chinese restaurant and they ordered the food. I know what we ordered the other night. Here we go. Yeah. You don't do a 17. Oh. It's just rice. You sure? Okay.
Oh, bloody hell.
They're speaking to me again now.
Good. Dog, help us. So, yeah, if I could say, Alasdair, thank you very, very much indeed for sharing some of your experiences with us. And to our audience, either on video or on audio, on Spotify, iTunes, please click like, follow, subscribe, and we'll keep you in touch with what we're up to, and keep on bringing you some very interesting guests from our environment across the world. So if I could ask you to raise your glass there. I see you've charged yours there, Julian.
I have.
We'll sign off in our traditional way. Alasdair Hotston Moore, thank you very much indeed, and may your dog go with you.
Thank you.
May your dog go with you, Alasdair. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. And cut.
There we go. Time.
Have you enjoyed yourself, mate?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Thank you for your invitation.